The other two sections that we did with radicals, relatively easy compared to what we're starting to do today. Today, things are going to get slightly more challenging. So you need to understand that whenever you're multiplying radicals, the big rule that you need to follow is outside times outside and inside times inside. That way you know what you're really multiplying together and what you're not. So when I have these two radicals, there's nothing on the outside here but a 1. And there's nothing on the outside here but a 1. And 1 times 1 is 1, and we don't have to write that on the outside because it's understood like those are. So there's nothing on the outside there, but on the inside, 2 times 6 is 12. And you can't leave it like that because we can simplify the square root of 12. None of these could be simplified, but this one can. Because that's really 2 times 2 times 3. And 2 on the inside, make 1 on the outside, so that's 2 square roots of 3. Just like you should always simplify your fractions, you should always try to simplify your radicals. So that's why this is the answer and not that. Okay? Example 2. This says they want us to square this whole thing. Well, a square really means that you write it twice. So this is like saying this thing times another one. Now that I've gotten it written twice, I can erase that square. Once again, it's outside times outside and inside times inside. So 3 times 3 is 9, and that number goes on the outside. And then 2 times 2 is 4, and that number goes on the inside. But you can simplify that number. So the square root of 4 is really 2, so that's 9 times 2, which is 18. It's not hard yet. Up here for this one, outside times outside, inside times inside. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Then my square root, 7y times 8y is 56 y squared. Can we simplify 56? Well, we know it's 7 times 8, and 8 breaks down. So that's really 2 times 2 times 2 times 7 y squared. 2 on the inside, make 1 on the outside. So that's negative 12. And then my y can come out. Inside I'm left with 2 times 7, that's 14. We're still alive. This is when it starts to get, what? So when I'm doing this one, if these were letters, you know you'd have to do the distributive property, right? You'd have to say x times x gives you x squared, etc., etc. Well, we have to do the distributive property here too. So I'm going to have to take this one and multiply it by the first number, and then take this one and multiply it by the last number. Well, when I'm doing just these two, 1 times 2 is 2, square root, and then 2 times 6 is 12. But we learned square root of 12 is 2 square roots of 3. So that's going to give me 2 times the square root of 3, which is 4 square roots of 3. For just that right there. Now I have to do this one times that one. Well, my outside here is a 1. My outside there is a negative 3. So 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, and then inside is the square root of 2. Inside there is no inside there. So there's nothing to multiply it by, So I just write my square root of 2. Can't forget that it's there. It's got to stay. So that's the answer. If these would have ended up like, yes, you would have had to have combined them. But they didn't end up like, so we're okay. Now's when it gets really rough. When you have this times this, you have to FOIL it, just like we did when there were letters. So 5 times 2 is 10. That's easy. Outside times outside is outside. That's good. Then we've got to do the 5 times the 3 square roots of 6. Outside times outside, so that's 15 square roots of 6. Okay. Then we've got to do this one times this one. Negative 2 times positive 2 is negative 4 square roots of 6. And then we've got to do this last one. Negative 2 times positive 3 is negative 6. And then 6 times 6 is the square root of 36. We have like terms. We have things that need to be reduced. That all has to be done. So that's 10 plus 15 and negative 4 gives us 11 square roots of 6. And then the square root of 6 is really 6. So that's minus 6 times 6, which is really 36. So let me change that to 36. Now I have 10 and negative 36. I can combine those. 10 and negative 36 give me a negative 26. So that leaves me with 11 square roots of 6 minus 26. And no, it doesn't matter which one comes first. You can have the negative 26 first if you want, and the 11 square roots of 6 second if you want. You cannot put the square root before the outside number, because that makes it look like the outside number is really underneath the square root, and it's not. I'd love to say that was all in that section, but it's not. There's more. And it doesn't get any easier. I'm sorry. But at least you've learned the rule by now. Okay. So you ready for one? Just one I'm going to challenge you with right now. One for you. One for you to try. Go ahead and try that one while I erase this one. Okay? For this one, remember it's outside times outside stuff and inside times inside stuff. So that's going to give me 9. Outside times inside, because that's an outside number and an inside number, is 3 square roots of 3. Inside times outside gives me negative 3 square roots of 5, because it was negative. And then inside times inside gives me negative square root of 15. Can't break that one down. In fact, you can't combine these either. Look at that. This is the answer. Can't be broken down anymore, can't be combined anymore. That's it. Let's say we did something slightly different. Let's say we had the problem 3 minus the square root of 5 times 3 plus the square root of 5. Instead of a 3, we had a 5. Well, 3 times 3 is still 9. 3 times the square root of 5 is 3 square roots of 5, just like before. Well, not there, but yeah. And then here we get negative 3 square roots of 5. And then the square root of 5 times that is a negative square root of 25. Well, these are like terms. Positive square root of 3 and a negative square root of 3 are going to cancel each other out. And we're left with 9 minus square root of 25 is 5. And we end up with just a 4. All because of that one number? Not quite. Back when we did factoring, you remember if we had the same thing here that we had there with the sign difference? It's called the difference of two squares. That's what we would end up with. Well, when we have the difference of two squares, like that one and that one's a perfect square, which means you can take it. So you're going to end up with just one number. It'll all become important later. And there's no need for you to memorize it that way because you can always work it out the long way, which is what I always do anyway. Let's look at this one over here. I know you don't like fractions. It's okay. I got a trick. Whenever we have a square root times a square root, remember it's outside times outside and inside times inside? Well, in effect, what we're doing is we're grouping all the outside stuff together, which in this case is just ones, and we're grouping all the inside stuff inside of one square root. So that would be like having 9 times 2 times 2 over 3. And whenever you're multiplying fractions, if you have something on bottom and on top that's the same, they cancel each other out. So these two 2's cancel each other out. And then this 3 can be reduced with that 9 and just leave you with the square root of 3 over 1, which is square root of 3. Didn't have to worry about a fraction. Just that simple. Didn't have to do any fancy multiplication. It all cancels itself out. Don't be afraid. Got it all under control. Classwork and homework. This one's on page 514. Numbers 1, 9, 11, 19, 21, 29, 31, and 39, because you need lots of practice. Homework. Don't wait until forever to get your homework done. Go ahead and do it as soon as you can. If you wait until the end of the day when you're tired, it's going to take you forever to finish and you're going to get frustrated. Especially with this because it's so easy to make mistakes. So try to get it done as early as you can. 3, 7, 13, 15, 17, 23, 27, 33, and 37. Don't make those careless errors. They'll rob your time like crazy. You'll see me tomorrow.